In today's video, we're going to go over each character that has been corrupted in the Pibby mods, and we're also going to go over some notable characters that have managed to avoid the corruption up to this point. Now, just to be clear, I'm only doing officially corrupted characters, meaning that I won't be doing any characters that are just concept or concept art right now. Now, for those of you that don't know, the Pibby mods are based on the Pibby Apocalypse trailer, aka the Learning with Pibby trailer, that was created by Adult Swim back in October 2021. Now, even though we never got any official episodes, the trailer was so popular that it took over the internet, and of course, Friday Night Funkin' picked this up, and that's how we got the corruption in the Friday Night Funkin' universe, alongside many other video game and cartoon universes as well. Now, the corruption, aka the darkness, basically would travel to different universes and consume anybody that it could catch. And once they were caught, they basically became a glitched version of their original self. And the first corrupted toon that we have to talk about, and technically the latest one that I know of, is going to be the Annoying Orange. Now, for those of you that don't know, the Annoying Orange is actually from a web series by the same name. And a sad fact about this mod is that it shows Girlfriend actually being corrupted here, and I don't think that this is the canon way that she gets corrupted in the Pibby universe, but it was still kind of sad to see, because she makes a comment that she believes Boyfriend will keep her safe, and then she immediately gets corrupted right after that. Now, the next character that I want to talk about on this list is going to be Naruto. He's another character that was just recently corrupted. And for those of you who watched the show, you definitely know that it's pretty dangerous that Naruto got corrupted, because even in this form as a child, he was still incredibly powerful, especially when he tapped into that nine-tailed fox power. And if we're being honest, Naruto could do a ton of damage even without being corrupted, so the fact that he's the character that they chose to corrupt is just bad news for anybody that he comes across. And just for my anime fans over there, put down in the comments, do you prefer Naruto or Boruto? I'm an old school Naruto fan, but let me know down in the comments. Next up on our list is another fairly recent one, and that's going to be the corrupted version of Dr. Doof. Now, of course, most of you probably know this character. He's from the Phineas and Ferb TV show, and actually those two characters were also corrupted a while back as well. I find it funny, but also pretty fitting that Perry the Platypus was not corrupted from that TV show though. Next, I want to talk about some of the characters in the Friday Night Funkin' universe that were corrupted, starting out with Corrupted Girlfriend. I think that Corrupted Girlfriend has the saddest backstory as far as the corruption goes, because she actually sacrifices herself in order to allow Boyfriend to escape the corruption. She basically uses her demonic powers in order to put this barrier around Boyfriend, and the only way Boyfriend can be corrupted is if he actually loses a rap battle, which will break the barrier and allow the corruption to take him over. Now, Girlfriend unfortunately was only able to save Boyfriend, because we also see that Pico ends up being corrupted as well. And what's sad about this fact is that Boyfriend actually tries to save Pico. He reaches out for him before the corruption can actually consume him completely. But the only thing Boyfriend is actually able to grab is Pico's gun, which is why we see him holding Pico's gun in almost every Pibby mod. Now, something I find very interesting is that a lot of people think that Boyfriend ends up getting corrupted, but this isn't technically true. The corrupted version of Boyfriend that we see is actually just a shade that is created by the corruption. Now, the scary part about this is that it shows that the corruption is smart enough to use people's emotions against them. What I mean by this is that there were some very powerful characters that were caught by the corruption, and we have to assume that the corruption wasn't fast enough to catch all of these characters. And this is where I think these mirror images come into place, because if somebody sees one of their loved ones corrupted, it may make them have enough pause to where the corruption can actually ambush or catch them. And I think that's what happened to a lot of characters. We see this somewhat when Garcello is pipified. Now, granted, Annie wasn't a mirage, but the fact that Annie was captured by the corruption in turn basically made Garcello lose all hope. And that's when we see him get taken over by the corruption, where he actually has a cigarette for a hand, which I thought was crazy, by the way. The next character on our list is going to be Peppa Pig, and as most of you know, she's from the TV show actually called Peppa Pig. And a sad fact about this character is that she's technically the youngest main character to be corrupted. And what makes matters even worse, in some of the mods, we actually see her corrupt her own family. Next up on the list, we have another corrupted character that I was actually kind of sad to see, because she's only 14, and that's Lily, aka Glitter Piece. Now, I'll be honest, I didn't know much about this character before the corrupted mod came out, but apparently she's from a series called Glitter Force, and something that's scary about this girl is that even though she looks super sweet, she's actually pretty powerful. And if her teammates also get corrupted, them together would be very hard to deal with, because they have a bunch of team attacks and coordinated attacks that are actually really strong. Next up on our list is going to be the corrupted Gorefield character, and this one's actually one of the more tame corrupted characters, because realistically this version of Gorefield is definitely not too dangerous, especially when you put it alongside like the Gorefield creepypasta. Next on our list is going to be Unikitty, and this one is actually kind of sad because originally she was one of the few characters that actually survived the corruption, but later on they actually made a mod where she was a corrupted character. A fun fact about Unikitty is that even though she has her own show, technically her first appearance was in the Lego movie back in 2014. We also have a corrupted version of Bob here. Most of you probably remember him from back in the day when people kept calling him Dream. And funny enough, I think Ron even ends up getting corrupted at some point as well. Next up on our list is going to be corrupted Mickey, more specifically the corrupted Clubhouse Mickey. And if I'm being honest, I was kind of surprised to see Mickey get corrupted because if you played the Kingdom Hearts game, you know he's pretty good at avoiding the darkness. But then again, there has been a lot of Mickey Mouse mods that have come out over the last year, so I knew that he was going to find his way into the Pibby corrupted mods. Next on this list, we have the corrupted Bear Bears, and they're from a Cartoon Network show called We Bear Bears. And if you're wondering why the three of them are stuck together, it's because they're actually brothers, and in the TV show, they always have each other's backs and they never really separate, so it makes sense that they would be captured by the corruption together. Next up on our list, we have Tank Man, and I actually forgot that Tank Man had a corrupted version of himself, which is why I didn't put him with the other Friday Night Funkin' characters. And I'll admit, it was actually kind of sad to see Tank Man getting corrupted because he's one of my favorite Newgrounds characters and one of my favorite Friday Night Funkin' characters. Next on our list is going to be Henry Stickman, and I actually hated seeing this guy corrupted because I remember watching Markiplier play through his little game series when I was younger, so this one kind of hit me in the heart just a little bit. And this one actually slid under my radar a little bit, but Aflac even has a corrupted version of himself as well. Next on our list, we have a bunch of characters from the regular show actually, and this one really surprised me because initially Mordecai and Benson got corrupted, but Rigby actually escaped the corruption, so it was kind of sad to see him get caught up here. Now that we've taken some time to look at some of the newer Pibby mods and characters that have come out, let's go ahead and take a look at some of the older Pibby corrupted characters. The next characters that we're going to talk about are going to be Finn and Jake, and it makes sense to put these two together because they're both from the show Adventure Times, they're best friends, and they're technically brothers. Finn was the main protagonist of the show and he was considered to be a hero, but since being corrupted, he has definitely fallen from grace. And unlike some of the other characters that have been corrupted, Finn isn't just looking to corrupt other people, he's actually out to catch bodies. If you look at his actual sprite, he is trying to chop Boyfriend's head off. I would argue that out of all the corrupted characters, Finn is probably the most outwardly violent. While Jake may not be as violent as Finn, I believe that he is a lot creepier than Finn. I say this because when Jake was corrupted, since he already had the ability to shape and morph his body, the corruption basically just amplified that. Not only did the corruption completely consume the lower half of his body, but even now when he shapeshifts, he can become this dark mask of just utter nightmare fuel. His creepiest pose by far is his up pose because he takes on the appearance of Gold from the Friday Night Funkin' Lullaby mod. The next character is Princess Bubblegum, and since we just talked about Jake and Finn, it seems fitting to talk about her as well because technically she was very close friends with Jake and she was also a love interest for Finn in the show. And something that is very sad about her character being corrupted is that she was actually very smart in the show. She was like a scientist slash inventor. And realistically, if she wouldn't have been caught by the corruption, she probably would have been one of the people leading the charge in order to stop the corruption from taking over more people. But sadly, that is not the case, and the corruption has taken over her body, and more specifically, one of her hands that's like this monstrous claw. And if I'm being honest, as far as aesthetics goes, she's probably the creepiest looking character in the entire mod. Next, let's talk about Steven Universe and Spinel because they are both from the same universe. Steven, of course, is the main character in the Steven Universe series. He is such a big deal because he was the first hybrid of human and gem, making him the first human to actually be a crystal gem. And even though Steven is very powerful, and I think more accurate to say he's very durable, not even he was strong enough to prevent the corruption from taking over his body. So the shield that he used to use to defend people is now being used to go corrupt people. Now, for those of you who know Spinel's backstory, it's probably not that big of a surprise that she would fall victim to the corruption. Spinel held a lot of hate in her heart for Pink Diamond, considering the fact that she abandoned her and left her standing alone for thousands of years. And we also know that when Spinel actually came to Earth, she came with the intent to destroy all organic life forms on the planet in order to get revenge. Now, we know that later on that situation gets resolved, and Spinel actually becomes, if not a good character, at least a less destructive character. But when she becomes corrupted, all that malicious intent comes right back to her, and considering that she has a scythe that can literally take away a gem's power for a while, and not to mention she's very good at using it, so even if she's just fighting regular people, she would still be a huge threat. and she has the ability to stretch her body, fly, and she's super powerful. Makes her not only a threat to just corrupting people, but also just straight up catching bodies. The next person that we need to talk about on our list is going to be Gumball Watterson. This was the blue cat, aka the main protagonist of the Amazing World of Gumball series. You probably remember that he had a fish brother named Darwin and a little sister named Anais. Something interesting about Gumball is that he's a very optimistic character, and even though he may not be the smartest character, he is brilliant when it comes to actually making some type of scheme or some type of plan that's probably going to end up getting him in trouble later. And he is very protective over the people that he really loves. But with that being said, he's also very sarcastic and he has a very cynical nature towards society in general. So in a way, I'm not surprised that his character ends up getting corrupted and is now actually corrupting other people in society. Now, moving on to some of the more classic characters that ended up getting corrupted, we're going to go ahead and start with Shaggy. And just to be clear, this isn't the meme version of Shaggy that is like super powerful, able to fly and go Super Saiyan. This is the regular Norville Rogers Shaggy, the one that was 17 years old and used to ride around with Scooby and the gang in the Mystery Mobile. Now, something that I find sad and interesting about this version of Shaggy though, is that once he loses his friends to the corruption, he becomes this mindless zombie, but he's going out to infect people because he lost his friends. It's almost as if he wants other people to feel the pain of loss that he feels. And even looking at the Adult Swim trailer, we're able to see that at least Velma and Scooby are both infected, and we all know that Scooby and Shaggy were basically inseparable. Next up, we have Fred Flintstone, and he was the main protagonist from the 1960s shows called The Flintstones. And we actually got to see his corruption scene in the trailer on Adult Swim, where he's sliding down the back of the dinosaur and goes right into the corruption, which was kind of sad to see because it was his iconic slide. Something else that's kind of sad about him being corrupted is that we never get to see if his wife, and more importantly, if his daughter Pebbles makes it away from the corruption. The next character that I want to talk about isn't as old as the previous two, but she is from the 1990s, and that is going to be Bubbles from the Powerpuff Girls. Now, I find it interesting that she is the Powerpuff Girl that ended up getting corrupted because in my opinion, she was definitely the kindest and just an overall sweetheart. Ironically enough though, her zombie form is not a sweetheart at all. It is out to catch bodies, and I mean that in a literal sense. When you lose to Bubbles in the Pibby mod, she doesn't just corrupt you, she completely just flies through your body like an evil Superman. The Bubbles game over screen is definitely one of the more brutal ones to ever be put into Friday Night Funkin'. Next on our list, we're going to go with the young Robin from the Teen Titans Go. Let's be honest, out of everybody on his team, Robin would definitely probably be the easiest person for the corruption to catch, because at the end of the day, even though he's a good leader, he has a bunch of gadgets and he's in top physical condition, I mean, he's still just a human, and grapple hooks and backflips can only get you so far. I also find it really ironic that Robin has on a bulletproof shirt, and I find it ironic because the corruption only took over his lower half, almost as if it did it on purpose just to show him that he was silly to even have on a bulletproof vest against it to begin with. Oswald the Lucky Rabbit is another character that ends up falling victim to the corruption, and it's kind of funny because his name is the Lucky Rabbit and he ends up getting corrupted. Now, something I find interesting about Oswald's transformation is that his eyes are completely gone and they are replaced instead with this TV static. And unlike many characters, Oswald actually has two forms, and his second form is complete nightmare fuel. I think the only character that looks creepier than Oswald is probably Princess Bubblegum. The last major corrupted characters I want to talk about here are going to be Skid and Pump. Skid and Pump were created by Sir Pilo, and they are two jolly kids who just love spooky month, aka Halloween in general. The two boys are basically inseparable and are definitely best friends. And this is what makes their corruption so sad. When Skid and Pump are corrupted, they are basically merged together, meaning that they can no longer be separated at all. And what's even more sad than that is that the boys are not even trying to corrupt other people. They are just stuck in that mansion from week 2 in the original Friday Night Funkin' game, and all they do is the spooky dance mindlessly forever. And the reason that they're doing this dance is because it's the last memory that they have before they were corrupted. So I guess if you want to put a silver lining around it, you can say that at least they get to be happy zombies. But in reality, they're just as mindless and hopeless as every other person that has been corrupted. And in my opinion, even though Skid and Pump are two of the sweetest characters in Friday Night Funkin', I feel like they always get the worst outcomes in mods. The next character that we need to talk about is going to be SpongeBob, aka Corrupted SpongeBob, which of course is the main protagonist of the show SpongeBob SquarePants. I know for a lot of people, seeing SpongeBob corrupted is kind of a blow to the gut a little bit, because he was the goofy, fun-loving little sponge flipping burgers and just trying to bring joy, and now seeing him as like an evil figure does kind of suck. Now, some fun facts about the corrupted SpongeBob mod is that if his songs sound familiar to you, it's because they're directly from the show. Stadium Rave A and Honolulu March are songs that are actually traditional and reoccurring tracks in SpongeBob. Look them up if you don't believe me. And something else that I found out about SpongeBob that I thought was interesting is that he's actually 35 years old, meaning that he's older than I am, which I would not have guessed. The next character that I want to talk about is going to be Uncle T, aka Mr. Trollolo. This character being corrupted is kind of heartbreaking because we all know that he and girlfriend have a very close relationship. He's even seen as being like her godfather. In his original mod, we see girlfriend hugging him tightly, introducing him to boyfriend, and wanting Uncle T to actually accept him. And surprisingly, Uncle T is nothing like Daddy Dearest, even though they're considered to be best friends, and he accepts boyfriend with open arms. So as much as it sucks to see a good character like this be corrupted, I will say that the artist Julian Marrero did a great job of making him look just as creepy as the regular Trollolo. And if I'm being honest, I hope to see a little bit more from this corrupted version of Uncle Trollolo in the future. The next characters I want to talk about are going to be put together, and it's going to be Vicky and Timmy Turner from the Very Odd Parents. Now, starting off with Vicky, you probably all remember her as being that very sadistic, ruthless, just completely cruel babysitter that used to just ruin Timmy's day whenever she got the chance. And her getting corrupted only made her a more malicious, more terrible person. We see this with the fact that she literally has a chainsaw manifesting from her hand now. And while I'm sure that she is trying to corrupt people just like the other corrupted zombies, she is also using that chainsaw to massacre people, meaning that she is catching bodies, not just trying to make zombies. This makes a lot of sense though, considering that she was a cruel character already to begin with. Some interesting facts about her is that her name Vicky might be a play on the word vicious, and her cruelty didn't just go to people outside of her family. She was even mean to her little sister named Tootsie. And in the episode called Birthday Wish, she literally used to go out of her way to ruin her own little sister's birthday every year. Timmy, on the other hand, is the complete opposite of Vicky. He's not really vicious, he's not mean, he's actually a pretty good kid who actually uses his Fairly Odd Parents to just try to make his life a little bit better. The sad part about Timmy getting corrupted kind of shows us that even though he had these fairy godparents, they were not able to help him, whether because they weren't powerful enough or they just weren't there when he was actually corrupted. And this is another example of just how powerful this corruption really can be if it can even prevent magical creatures from having any type of effect on it. The next character I want to talk about is going to be Twilight Sparkle, who is from the Dust Till Dawn mod, which was created by Jake Neutron. And after doing a little bit of research, it looks like Jake Neutron is actually responsible for quite a few of the Pibby corrupted characters, and his animations are definitely top tier. Now, even though Twilight Sparkle is the main antagonist in this mod, before she got corrupted, she was actually very well known and very loved by the other ponies in Canterlot. But once the corruption came, she was actually one of the few people that was able to escape and survive, while the rest of the city was completely taken over by the corruption. The only reason she ends up getting corrupted is when she finds boyfriend and she's actually stopping to either join him or talk to him. She lets down her guard and the corruption is able to take her over. The next character I want to talk about is going to be Corrupted Tord, and of course he's one of the main characters from the Edgeworld series, and later on he became one of the main antagonists in the series. And at first I was kind of surprised that he ended up being caught by the corruption, considering that he has Tordbot. But then when I really thought about it, all these other characters who would definitely be considered to be stronger, faster, just probably even more clever than Tord ended up getting caught by the corruption. So it's not that surprising that he ended up getting caught too. The next two characters we're going to talk about are going to be Bugs Bunny and George Jetson. Bugs Bunny was one of the main characters starring in the Looney Tunes series, and of course he was known as being somewhat of a trickster and a prankster. But after he ended up getting corrupted, he became something a bit more dangerous than that, and now he wants to torment people. So he's no longer just playing games or tricks, and he wants to infect people, meaning making other people zombies as well. Bugs Bunny is one of the few characters that we can actually see fighting against Pibby in the Adult Swim trailer, and George Jetson also makes an appearance in there as well. What's interesting about George is that he is the only toon thus far that has a completely changed body. What I mean by that is that he actually looks like a giant spider. In the Adult Swim trailer, we actually see him kind of rampaging through the woods trying to catch Pibby and her friends. Now, I wish I knew why they decided to make George Jetson specifically this giant spider-like creature, because it doesn't really make sense when you look at his cartoon being like this futuristic type of universe. And this may be the reason that this sprite is considered to be outdated, and they may be updating it in the future. Next up on our list, we have Tom and Jerry, two more OG cartoons from the 1940s. Most of you are probably familiar with these two characters and how they would constantly play games of cat and mouse trying to outsmart each other. It's really no surprise that Tom and Jerry end up getting caught by that corruption, because realistically with these other characters who were caught who were much faster, much stronger than these two, of course they had no chance. Now something that does stand out about these two though is that while they're in their corrupted forms, they stick together, kind of like Jake and Finn. And I think this is kind of a callback to all the episodes and even the Tom and Jerry movie where we kind of get to see Tom and Jerry working together and actually being friends. If you're old like me, you'll remember some of those episodes. Next, I want to talk about Bun Bun, who acted as like Pibby's right-hand man in the Learning with Pibby series. He and Pibby were literally best friends before the darkness, aka the corruption, came and literally ripped Bun Bun away from Pibby while also just devouring their whole world. This is kind of sad when you really think about it, because Bun Bun was probably the most innocent character in the show, period. And the fact that this character ends up becoming like the main antagonist, the big bad, is just a blow to the gut. It makes it even worse when you know that the whole goal of Bun Bun, now that he is corrupted, is to simply destroy all the cartoon worlds. Next up on our list, we have Sonic the Hedgehog, and this is definitely one of the strongest characters to be corrupted thus far. And a lot of people think that since this isn't the EXE version of Sonic, that it's not that big of a deal, but I don't think people quite understand how powerful Sonic really is. Sonic has super speed and super strength and everything that comes with those two aspects. And when you consider that corrupted characters can actually corrupt others, who realistically is going to be able to get away from Sonic running at full speed? The last corrupted character that I want to cover is going to be Uncle Grandpa, and this may surprise a lot of you, but he's definitely one of, if not the most powerful character to be corrupted thus far. Part of this is because he's immortal, and he's one of the few characters that actually avoided the corruption the longest. The only reason he actually ends up getting corrupted is because boyfriend and girlfriend end up wandering into his RV. And when Uncle Grandpa sees that girlfriend is corrupted, he tries to help her and she ends up biting him. The fact that he tries to help her shows his good nature first and foremost, but it's also the only reason that he ends up falling victim to the corruption. What's also really scary about this though is that Uncle Grandpa is also immortal alongside a bunch of other powers that he has, but if the corruption can take somebody at his level, who realistically can resist it? Now, some notable characters that actually managed to survive the corruption thus far are Samurai Jack, Miriam, a Buttercup, Lion from Steven Universe, that Return to Slab Guy from Courage the Cowardly Dog, Jimmy and Plank, Darwin, and the other people in there I can't really make out, but if you recognize anybody, make sure to put them down in the comments. If you made it to the end of this video, make sure to let me know who you would like to see corrupted next. Check out this video on the screen if you want to learn about Mighty Zip. And make sure to like and subscribe for more content in the future. This is Orseofkorse. Thanks for watching. Peace, peace.